William Hill sponsors Martin vs. Joshua on Sky Sports Box Office.
Radio Raheem here with Carl Froch. We're on the eve of Anthony Joshua facing Charles Martin at the O2 Arena. Obviously, you've been presenting for Sky Sports. We'd love to get your opinion about this fight.
I bet you would. What do you want to know?
I want to know who's going to win, how they're going to win, and what round.
You don't want to know much, do you? It's just a gambling website.
It's a gambling website. People are putting their house payments down on this, so Carl. Don't let us down.
So what's the odds then? What's the odds?
It's 5-1 for Joshua, right? But 75% of the bets.
5-1 on.
Yeah,
so 5-1 to 5.
You put $1, £1 down, and you get $5 back if Martin wins.
All right, okay. And what's the favorite? Josh.
Josh was the favorite. I think he's 7-2. Is it? Like you have to put 7 to get 2.
To get 2. Okay.
Yeah.
But so Josh is a wide favorite.
Right.
I don't think we can justify that gap, but probably the bets are going heavy on Josh.
Actually, 75% of the bets are going on Martin because of the 5-1. Right.
The odds. And that's good value for money in a fight that potentially, from my point of view, could be a 50-50 fight. And you can't really pick a winner because Josh is in his 16th fight. Martin's 25th fight. He's got the belt, but he didn't really go and win that belt, did he? He didn't go and take it off a champion. It was a vacant belt. Tyson Fury got stripped. And Glasgow in round 3, his knee just collapsed, done his cruciate ligament, whatever he did to his knee. So he didn't really go and fight for that belt like you want to as a champion. I boxed John Pacquiao for the WBC title. It was vacant. But I went out and fought a live, unbeaten John Pacquiao in a 12-round war, and when I got that belt and my rib was broken, my eardrum was bleeding and my head was hurting and my eye was all stitched up, I thought, you know what, I've won this belt and I'm not letting it go. Martin won't want to let the belt go, but he didn't really earn it like you want to earn it. So he's either going to take it for granted, enjoy the payday and go home without his belt, or he's going to come here hungry like a challenger and really leave it all in that ring. And if he does that, he'll be dangerous. He'll be a threat for Josh.
That's been a big debate in the States, whether or not Martin should consider himself a true champion. Do you think he can?
Well, it's difficult. He is a champion. He's got the belt. You can't dispute that. But he didn't fight the champion for the belt. He didn't take it off the champ. Tyson Fury was the champ. He was stripped. So I think in his own mind, he realises that although he's got that belt, really, he needs to fight somebody to then stamp his authority on the world level, and he's not done that yet.
When it comes to Anthony Joshua, has he fought anybody? And when you talk about Dillian Whyte, even those 2 rounds where it was a little bit tough of a go, is that enough to consider him like having had a real fight yet?
No, not really. I mean, he had a couple of sticky rounds. He got caught with a left hook to the chin. It was a heavy shot that would have put most heavyweights down. He recovered well, but let's be honest, he turned into Frank Bruno for 2 rounds. He was stiff, he was rigid, he was upright, and he looked like he was in trouble. We all saw it, but the important thing is he recovered and he finished strong and he got the knockout with that brutal uppercut.
Let me ask you about another British fighter going for a world title really soon. We've got Amir Khan coming over to the States to fight Canelo Alvarez against a big middleweight. And we've seen that Khan's looking a little bigger himself now. Do you think he has a shot in that fight?
It's a tough fight for him. Of course he has a shot. He can box, he can move well. He's got fast hands, but it's how much that extra weight's going to take away from his A game. And his A game is the movement and the speed. So as long as he can keep some speed with that extra 10 pounds or whatever he's gone up in weight, it's 155, right?
It's 155.
So he's gone up a fair bit, but the cute move there was bringing Alvarez down a few pounds because he's dropped 5 or 6 pounds, whatever he's dropped. That could be a difference, quite significant. We will find out, but I think it's a tough fight for Khan to win. I can see how he wins, but the smart money, if we're going to talk gambling, is on Alvarez.
And lastly, about analyzing fights, there's another fight tomorrow night. Manny Pacquiao is facing Timothy Bradley for the 3rd time. What do you think about that matchup? As Timothy Bradley maybe can do it this time?
I think he will do it. I think this is a fight between 2 fighters, probably more so Manny Pacquiao, that should maybe be considering retirement. He's still doing his thing. He's still, 33?
He said it's going to be his last fight. He said he's going to retire.
So he knows he's at the end of his career. He's had a couple of bad knockouts, but he's had a couple of great wins. The fight against Floyd Mayweather was, in my opinion, quite poor. I know he was injured, but nothing really got going. But Mayweather was very, very sharp that night. I was sat ringside watching him in awe because his reflexes and his speed and his power and his accuracy for Mayweather that night was almost impossible to get near him. And then Manny Pacquiao, obviously, it transpired he's got a bad shoulder. So maybe there's a little excuse for Pacquiao, but I don't know. I'm not really that excited about the fight. I think Timothy Bradley should do the business. I think he's the top of the division.
And Timothy winning.
I've got Timothy winning, yeah. And I think Kell Brook then should be in a big fight with one of them.
We'd love to see
yeah,
that.
And then when he comes through, I think he can dominate the weight division.
And before I let you go, I got to take you a little bit back into your career because we got George Groves fighting tomorrow night. And
I thought he was there then. You pointed over.
You're ready to go again.
Left, right, good night. Yeah, he's fighting again. He's fighting, but he's fighting somebody who couldn't punch the metaphorical skin off a rice pudding. You know, the guy's got one knockout in how many fights? Fighting nobodies. So this fight really for me is just a non-entity. It's not even a spar. So it's difficult to talk about that fight with any sort of excitement or relevance of anything. So ask me a question, I'll give you an answer.
I've asked him a couple of days ago something along those lines. Is his career still viable? And he feels like it is, and you may be interested in why. He says that even though in his last big fight he got knocked out by you, but he retired you after having getting knocked out. That was his logic. People are going crazy about that comment. I'm curious to think what your reaction is.
That just sums up his mentality. He retired me. I retired myself. And I decided quite a few weeks, and I did explain before that fight that this is probably my last fight. I'm going to retire, but I'm going to win. I'm going to knock him out. So he can say that getting knocked out in round 8 by the Cobra and getting rendered unconscious in front of 80,000 fans at the Wembley Stadium is smart move in his heyday to retire me. But trust me, I retired on the back of that brutal knockout, settled the biggest score in British boxing, made history, and sailed off into the sunset. And I'm absolutely loving retirement. I'm still smiling for that night, almost 2 years ago. And good luck to George Groves, but he's been well and truly cobra'd, and he's going to struggle. He's going to struggle to come back from that because he's like a wounded soldier. He's been in the battlefield, and he's took too much punishment. And at super middleweight, I think he's going to struggle because he's getting bigger, he's looking older. But if he steps up to light heavyweight, they're punching harder. So he's in a real tough spot. I'm hearing that he was 8 pound overweight for the check weigh-in. He came in on weight today. He's looking gone, and you know, I've got nothing against the kid. I just don't like him. I've got nothing against him. I've got a lot of thanks for him because I had my career biggest payday, and I transcended the sport. We transcended the sport. Wembley Stadium, we brought a whole new audience in. So what we've both done to the sport together was fantastic, and I genuinely wish him all the best. But I'm just talking boxing. I'm talking what I see. Personalities aside, he doesn't look like he used to look. I think his best fight really was the first fight with me. He was sharp, he was punching hard, he was accurate, but he tired himself out, hitting me in the head, and then I took over and took him out. And the rematch was just conclusive, and that was in my opinion the end of him. And then I retired because I'd had enough.
And lastly, Carl, you've still got that fire in your eyes. You retired at the right time. You're still clearly happy. You're analyzing this sport, and now with Mayweather going and Pacquiao on the way out, who is the best, your pound-for-pound #1 boxer active today?
That's a tough question. Pound-for-pound best. Kell Brook, in my opinion, is a great fighter, but to say he's pound-for-pound, he needs to do something. It's difficult to take anything away from or put anybody up there with Tyson Fury after he dethroned Klitschko. But Klitschko got old. You know, he's an aging Klitschko. So pound for pound at the minute, I think it's wide open for somebody to take over.
What about Golovkin?
It's hard. Well, Golovkin needs to fight somebody. You know, it's all right knocking everybody out, but who's he boxed? Who's the biggest name on his record? There's nobody there that really jumps out, and I don't think he's beaten anybody that none of our middleweights, Chris Eubank, Billy Joe Saunders. I don't think he's beaten anybody that they couldn't beat. So it's hard to say that he's pound for pound, but he's certainly up there to take that throne, that position. Because if Golovkin keeps doing what he's doing, and then he fights somebody and dispatches them like you would expect him to with that punching power, then I think Golovkin is tapping on the door for pound.
Carl FROCH, we so appreciate the time. Your analyst is perfect. Everybody, let's give a round for the champ, yeah? Yeah, they love him out here. Radio Raheem with Carl FROCH. Don't miss tomorrow night at the O2 Arena. Charles Martin is going to be defending his title against Anthony Joshua. Be there or you'll miss out on the biggest fight of the year.
Only on Sky Sports Box Office, so tune in.
Brought to you by William Hill. Thanks a lot, Carl.
Pleasure.